Wow, we're live. Hey, how about that? Woohoo! Party on. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm sure there's like thousands of people there. Oh, we've got two. Go ahead and if you have something to say, you can say something in the chat box so that we can kind of capture that. So, welcome to the Want to Learn podcast, everybody. And this is going to be a live stream, so we can answer any of your questions if you happen to be on here. And we're going to be recording it to make it later as a podcast. This is
Rejoice.
Rejoice. All right. Okay. How did you get to be so short?
What? Yeah, because I'm short.
Oh, come on, stand up. Come on, stand up. Okay, you're
Very
taller
good.
than me. Look at that.
I'm
That's
taller
great.
than him.
Okay, so for those who are just listening to this, well, you have to suffer through that. Go ahead and post any questions on there if you want. Now, let me see. So the part of the purpose of this live stream is so that I can answer some of the questions that people have. And one of them is from Yida, who says, I'm a geography and urban studies student in Vancouver, so I'm interested in everything about different countries and cities. I haven't been to Africa yet, but Lagos, Nigeria is on my list. I wonder how the Eco-Atlantic Urban Project will turn out because it looks like another Dubai. Now, Rejoice, you have lived a bit of your life actually half your life in Nigeria. But Lagos is a world away from where you were. You were in Borno State, which is the northeast corner. Now, had you ever heard of the Eco-Atlantic Project?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
So you haven't heard, zero?
No, I haven't heard. And
So
when I was in Nigeria, I was in the village anyway. So even if that Eco-Atlantic project existed, I wouldn't have heard of it.
Okay. What it is that they're basically reclaiming some of the lagoon or the seaside there. They're building a big barrier against the sea, and they are trying to create a new metropolis right next to Lagos, right next to VI, Victoria Island. And it's going to be kind of like, she was saying, Yida was saying, I suppose it's a she, that it's going to be like another Dubai. What do you think? I can show you some pictures of it. I don't know if I can share these with the thing, but the Eco-Atlantic Urban Project. What do you think initially?
Initially, like they're building these houses and developing.
It's not just houses, but they're going to be building a whole
This is
city.
the place?
Yeah, it's the vision of
This
the whole
is the
place.
vision.
Let me see if I can share this.
Like this is the vision.
Yes, let me share the screen with those who are going to be watching this. I share the screen. No, I don't know how to do that. God damn it, I'm so stupid. Okay, well, if you guys happen to be online, you just search for Eco-Atlantic and you'll see the stuff that pops up there. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be this whole metropolis. What do you think?
It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen in this century.
No, actually, see, they're actually visioning. I mean, this is the promising side of Africa. I mean, I think Rejoice, you're probably more cynical than I am about the future of Africa.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because Africa will always be lagging behind other societies. We will continue, of course, to improve and become better than what we are today, but we're just going to be behind everybody else.
Yes, but that could still be improving. I mean, that's still a good thing. And the Lagos project is a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, well, the Lagos project is a very good vision, but the problem is there is going to be a lot of problems doing that because people are just corrupt all over. This is a good plan, but it's going to be hard to complete it because the Nigerian authorities will want whoever it is that is going to be planning all this thing to be paying them, even though when everything is done, it will benefit all the society. They're still going to try to get back money, corruption, give me this, give me that, before I will allow you to build a road here, before I will allow you to build a skyscraper, you have to give money. And so it's just going to take a long time to finish it because you get tired paying people money when in the end the project will benefit also them and their children.
Right. Hey, Yida just joined us online. She's the one. I think it's I think Yida is a she. And she says, hello, Francis. I just started reading the chapters from your book and sent you an email. In fact, I did get that email. Yida, I will respond to some of the questions right here. One of the things that Yida also said is, have you considered making an audiobook for Audible if it is too long to be a single book? Yes, I am definitely going to make an audiobook. In fact, one of the things that really, I have audiobooks already for the Hike Your Own Hike, but unfortunately I recorded it at a wrong quality level, just underneath the threshold that they needed. So I can't even use, I'm gonna have to re-record it at a higher audio level, and doing an audiobook is painful. You know, Alice and I have a profound respect for newscasters who read teleprompters. You think that reading a teleprompter is easy. Well, when I read my audiobook, I realized how difficult this is. It is really incredibly hard. You have to just, it's so easy to make an error every 5-10 sentences, and that's a lot of errors. And so hats off. You think it's easy to be on CNN and just read teleprompters, or be the president of the United States and read teleprompters? It's not. It's easy to make errors too, by the way. Have you ever tried to do this for Joyce?
No.
Okay. So any questions that, oh, it's okay. I'm a guy. So Yida is actually a guy. Okay, well, I'm sorry. So Yida had some comments, some very interesting comments, and I want to share some of them. General thoughts about the hidden Africa. Oh, he calls it the hidden Africa. It's the unseen Africa. Okay, he says, one of the things that Patreons have is that they have access to the chapters as I'm writing them. And he asked about the blue sections, what it's all about. I have some sections in the book that are blue because these are sections I probably will delete. I just have them there just in case, one last look, take a look at it and say, oh, no, don't, you can't delete that. Please don't delete that. And so he says, Yida says, I personally look forward to reading about Nigeria, the two Congos, and Zimbabwe, as you were probably there during the last period of the Mugabe regime. And you're absolutely right. I was there during his penultimate year. You didn't get to go to Zimbabwe.
I was in prison in Zimbabwe.
Right.
So
I mean, sorry, I meant that you didn't get the tour of Zimbabwe. You got the tour of the prison.
yeah, I got the tour of the prison in Zimbabwe. So, and I also ate at the restaurant in the Harare before I went to. Anyway, it doesn't. I was in Zimbabwe during Mugabe. So
yeah. So let's tease the audience a little bit by this: why you were in prison in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Come on.
Well,
Thousands of people are listening.
I was following Francis.
What an idiot.
I left my warm, comfy bed and took a journey to join Francis in South Africa. But it started, I wanted to go legally to South Africa. I applied for visa. The first time they rejected, and I asked why. I couldn't meet the ambassador because I'm not important enough to meet the ambassador. So I didn't get an explanation, and they took my money. That pissed me off. And then I applied for a transit visa to go to, what's the name of that small island in South Africa where we're supposed to meet? Lesotho. But the problem with going to Lesotho is I will need to change planes. And South Africa made the transit like a domestic. So I have to check through immigration of South Africa before I can change planes. And South Africa refused me a transit visa. I asked, why? I need to know, what am I doing wrong? Did I not bring a paper or something? I didn't get an answer. So I said, okay, fuck it. I still will go to South Africa. I did twice to go legally. You refused. I'm going to go illegally. I took a bus from Cameroon, went to Congo, and then the first Congo, I don't know if it's
the Republic
of Congo. From there, I took a canoe, cross into the DRC.
It's not a canoe. You took a boat.
Yeah, a boat. Okay, a boat into the DRC. Spent some days in DRC.
From Brazzaville to Kinshasa.
Yeah, from Brazzaville to Kinshasa, and from there.
The two closest capitals in the world.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, and from there I took a plane from Kinshasa to. I don't remember the name of the town.
Lumumbashi.
Lumumbashi, yeah, is the bordering town with Congo.
It's not border, but it's kind of close to the border.
Okay.
Right.
You say. Okay. So.
And then from there, you took a bus that was going. You paid off a fixer.
Going to Zambia, then Zimbabwe, then to South Africa.
Right.
I had to pay bribe money for somebody to sneak me into South Africa. I paid the driver, and so but I got caught at the border.
That's right. She got caught at the border, like
And I was
literally
in
a few
prison.
meters away, a few steps away from the South African border. Had she just crossed that threshold, she would have been somewhat free anyway. And instead, she went to prison, and then I'll recount that whole story in the book. So hang on for that. Okay, so speaking about the book, one of the things that he says, are you going to add lessons we can learn and takeaway points from any of the countries? Yes and no. Like if you had read The Hidden Europe, you'll see at the end of every chapter, which is based on a country, I put takeaways or lessons learned from Slovakia, from Lithuania, from Latvia, from Russia, whatever. And each country has it. Because Africa has 54 countries, and I didn't want to make the lessons too trite, I wanted to make sure that there was some meaning behind it. I didn't just want to signal out such lessons as I did with The Hidden Europe. So for the Unseen Africa, there will be lessons, takeaways, things that I think that some African countries or regions do, or the whole continent does better than we do in the United States, and things that we can learn from them. And so, and also just general takeaway points, things that may not be good, they might be bad, or they might be neutral. They're just things to know about the continent. What comes to mind, Rejoice, for you? Things that some big takeaways from your 31 countries that you visited.
That, oh boy.
Well, think about it.
Yeah, I think about it.
Okay, so one of the comments that Yida said about my initial chapters, my preliminary draft chapters, he said some of the chapters felt short, and I would have liked more detail, but I understand the space constraint. Thank you for understanding the space constraints. I would love to write a lot more about each country. There's a lot more I can say, but already now my agent is telling me my book is too fucking long. It's going to be 1,000 pages if I don't cut it. And so in order to make it digestible, nobody's going to want to publish a book that is even 600 pages long. It's going to be very hard sell. Because why don't they? Because it costs a lot of money to do that, and also because it is very hard to sell. And most people don't want to buy and read a book that big. So everybody likes a book that's around 300, 400 pages, around that page, or 250. To do that, with 54 African countries, you're talking about 5 pages per country, which is not that much. So I have to really be succinct and unfortunately leave a lot of things out, unfortunately, or completely change the format of the book and just say, okay, I'm only going to talk about 5 of the 54 countries, which is also kind of too bad. He says that, for example, there wasn't any discussion on Ghana being Africa's first independent country in 1957, followed by an introduction of the Kwame Nkrumah and his legacy. Okay, now in Ghana, did I even write the chapter on Ghana yet? I guess I did, yeah. It's so far away that I hadn't written about it. That's a good point. It is important that it is Africa's, certainly sub-Sahara Africa, first independent country. I think I could be wrong about this, but I think Libya might have been independent before Ghana. I'm not sure about that. But you're right. That is a very significant point, and I'm surprised I left it out, but I'll double check that if I did indeed leave out that significant fact out about Ghana. Now, he also says there are lots of good information from your conversations with locals and professional correspondences. Did you audio record any of the interviews and transcribe everything, or were they mostly paraphrasing from memory? Many research papers and academic books transcribes everything, but that is also due to the requirement by ethics department, which is different for your book project. Once again, a very sensitive and astute comment by Yida that I don't have the same bar and metric that many academic papers have. You don't have to transcribe and record everything. However, I did do a lot of interviews, video interviews, and so I was able to capture the exact quote in the video. So there's that. But you're right, a lot of things were just casual conversations. I'm on the street. I'm not going to pull out a microphone in the middle of a conversation. And here's the thing. When you get the most juicy parts of a conversation, it's not when you're recording them, right? It's when you're out there having a drink in a bar.
Unexpected,
and it's quiet, and you're just alone, one-on-one. Nobody else is listening, right?
Yeah.
That's when everybody spills the beans of what Africa is really like, right? That's when all of a sudden they tell you what really is going on. When there's no cameras rolling, when there's no microphones, that's when people share juicy little details. And am I fair to say that, right?
Oh, yeah.
When your girlfriends get together, and even when the men are not there, right? What do you guys say? What do you give us a nugget?
No, good things.
You're not going to tell us?
No.
Oh, you're terrible. But what I would do is that I would, at the end of every day, not every day, but usually I would take notes and write down, these are some of the things that happened to me today. These are some of the interesting conversations. And sometimes I would even type while the person's in front of me. So I would actually type some of their answers right in front of me if I felt comfortable enough with that person. So, and then lastly, sometimes when I am paraphrasing or grabbing it from memory, a lot of times I'll just use the person's first name. I won't use their last name. First of all, I may not know their last name, but second of all, it's a way to protect their identity. And what's important so much is not the exact word that they said, but more the essence of what they said, the meaning behind it, and the fact that I had some African that I was talking to saying basically that. So sometimes it's the message, the general message. And finally, for a lot of Africans, their native tongue might not be English or French, for example, the languages I'm most familiar with. And so they might be speaking in a broken, and if I quote them exactly, it will turn out to be hard to read. So I kind of paraphrase things. Okay, last thing is most of the chapters really don't go into depth into politics and ideology of their leaders, but it would be informative for someone who would want to use your book as an African primer, almanac, or mini encyclopedia. In your Europe book, you also analyze different languages like Polish and Hungarian. Maybe you can introduce a couple of African languages as well. Yes, you're absolutely right, Ida. That's a very good comment. Again, it's a space constraint issue. Africa has a lot more languages than Europe, and there's about, I think, 650 languages in Africa, depending on how you count a language, but roughly over 600. But there are things like Fulfulde, which you speak, and Hausa, which you speak. Both of them have over 20 million speakers. There's more speakers of Fulfulde and there's more speakers of Hausa than there are Swedish speakers or Finnish speakers or Luxembourgish speakers, and or probably even Dutch speakers. So these are significant languages on the global stage as far as just sheer numbers. And that is something that, do you know how many Kanuri speakers there are? You speak Kanuri too, right?
Yeah.
So Rejoice speaks 3 African languages, Kanuri.
Hausa, Fulfulde.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Kanuri speak.
So let's say, how do you say table in Hausa? Table.
Table? Like what kind of table?
Like a table, like your table you eat on. Although you guys eat on the floor.
We
a chair. How about that? Chair is simple.
Kujera.
Kujera. That's for Hausa.
Yeah, like it's a chair.
It's a
kujera. Every table is called kujera.
Okay.
It doesn't
Kujera.
matter.
That's a
Hausa,
right?
Table. Yeah.
Right. That's true. That's because you call everything. This is fun thing is like when we're with Rejoice, it's oftentimes she'll point at a sofa and call it a chair, or she'll call a table a chair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not a chair. That's a table. And she's like, well, in Hausa we call it everything a kujera. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what about in Fulfulde?
In Fulfulde.
How do you say table? Oh, sorry, a chair.
Like the chair.
You sit on.
Oh, it's Joe Engel.
Huh?
Joe Engel.
Joe Engel. Okay, and what about Kanuri? Do you remember? Kanuri is her weakest.
I don't remember. Yeah, it's my weakest. But if I think about it, I would remember.
So imagine if you told a Kanuri person to sit down in your chair and you're going to serve them some food.
Yeah.
Well, thinking about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and Yida just asked me also, did you try to learn or speak any African languages? Well, as we were just mentioning, Rejoice does speak 3 African languages, but not because she had to. Why did you speak all these 3 languages? Just because that was the custom? You were in a border town a lot of your life.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to make any effort. You just learn it.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
But because the customers in your restaurant, she was basically from the age of, since you were born, basically.
Yeah, since I knew how
to walk.
Yeah.
As long as as soon as you could start picking up a tray,
Yeah.
you started working
Yeah,
cleaner.
and I started talking in Hausa, Fulfulde, and Kanuri. I didn't go to school to learn any of this language. It's I don't know why. We just speak it.
Right, because the customers, I think, and then the community. It was a border town of, it was kind of a, not just border town, but it was a melting pot. It was a place where there's a crisscrossing of a lot of cultures coming through.
Yeah.
But what was the name of the town again?
Kangaro.
Kangarawa. All right. And so, but both Rejoice and I spent a lot of time in Tanzania, and we learned very basic Swahili.
Oh, sorry, the name of,
Sure.
not in Kanuri. In Fulfulde, there is Joel Engel or Korowal.
What's the difference? Hard to say.
That's hard to say.
It's like saying.
But normally we say Korowal, Hokkam Korowal, like give me, like when you're cooking
me a
in the
seat.
kitchen,
Hmm.
you want to sit down, so you tell the child, give me Hokkam Korowal, give me
A chair.
a chair. But if you want to put the food on the dining table, you also say, Korowal. Put it on the same chair, but it's the dining table. You're referring it to the dining table. So the same thing is different thing.
There you go. So yeah, the only other African language I know, probably some people would consider it's not an African language, I really made a big effort for is Arabic, because Arabic is a world tongue, hundreds of millions of speakers, and so I felt that was worth learning. In Madagascar, we learned very basic words of Malagasy because we found that so many people didn't speak French. So we're very pragmatic about learning languages. If you're fluent in French and everybody around you speaks French, you're not really going to learn Kanuri or Hausa because you're getting by with English or French or whatever, and that's good enough. Unless you're going to live there. But if you're visiting, aside from saying what I try to learn, like how to say thank you in languages, that's always a good winner. But other than that, it's just way too many languages, moving too frequently to make it worthwhile. But in Botswana and in Madagascar, I noticed that people didn't speak one of the 5 major languages of Africa. And the 5 major languages are nearly half the countries, about 45%.
You said Botswana.
Yeah, they speak Swahili. Yeah,
what,
that's
Tanzania?
right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting about Tanzania is that very few people actually speak
Any
English.
language except Swahili.
Swahili is the dominant language.
Yeah.
They might speak other languages, we just don't even know.
Yeah, we don't even know.
But they don't speak English, which is theoretically their.
They don't speak French either.
No, they definitely don't speak French.
Mhm.
And so it's and that comes from this pride from their independence of saying we're going to have a national language, we're going to have a regional language. They really thought it was going to be ultimately a Pan-African language, but in the end it was barely even a regional language because the Kenyans kind of speak it, the Ugandans speak it even less. It's really just Tanzanians who are really the champions of Swahili. And so as a result, it really never took off. And there's a big price you pay because the people of Tanzania have to learn the local language, their regional dialect. So whatever dialect their parents are talking, whatever, which is maybe only a couple million speakers, that's it. And then they also have to learn Swahili. And the brain can only fit so many languages in, and they don't teach English until you get to high school. That makes no sense. So you get into grammar school, you're learning Swahili, you're going through middle school, Swahili, and then suddenly you're catapulted into high school and they're taught in English. It's like, whoa. And of course, a lot of people don't even make it to high school. So it's a tough thing because I understand the benefits of uniting a Pan-African language. But when you sacrifice your globalized access, your globalization access, by not teaching people English or French for that matter, then you're kind of penalizing your people by not giving them a competitive edge. Because why? If you look at all the NGOs, all the companies, when they want to go to East Africa, they would much rather set up where?
The places where people speak different languages apart from
which one in particular? Instead of Tanzania, they go to?
Kenya.
Exactly. They go to Nairobi. Because in Nairobi, how many people speak English?
A lot.
Exactly. Almost everybody. Okay, so that's the end of the podcast because I got to go. But thank you so much for joining in, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
It's ready outside.
I don't know.
Oh, you can